Okay, so here we go, get started. They asked me to substitute for Chad, and I'm honored at the opportunity to do that. I know some of you well over the last few years, and a lot of you I don't know, and a lot of you I probably should remember, but my memories. I'm 63 years old, and I'm pretty busy, and I can barely remember what I had for lunch. So forgive me if I don't recognize you. I just want to share my story, and then we'll get into if you guys have some questions, and feel free to put your hands up or put in the chat box. So I'll go in order. But just a background to introduce myself that don't know me. So 3 years and 2 months ago, I had been in real estate at the time for about 33 years. It had been my career. And unfortunately, I made a couple mistakes along the way. While I had a good amount of business overall, didn't really create the wealth or long-term income that I needed. And I got into management, which was a mistake. I think my generation assumed that going from sales into management was a positive move. Even though I made a good income, never worked into the opportunities for wealth building that I hoped they would be. And so 3 years ago, 2 months, March of 2019, I had to really start from scratch. I had no listings, no leads. I realized the only way for me to build any income in the long run and wealth was in sales. And I had known of probate. I'd done a couple of probate deals over the years, like any experienced agent had come across them. But I didn't make it a source of lead generation. And so I started doing some research, and I went to a couple classes online, and I stumbled into Chad's program. He did an online call, and then it was a coaching program I did. At that time, it was 3 days of 4 or 5 hours. It was amazing. He had a perspective that lined up with who I am as a person, rather than all be about just getting business, taking business from people, and rather be about kind of tricking vulnerable people into flipping properties on the cheap. It really was about exchanging service for value, which is at the core where I come from. My first coach was Zig Ziglar. He said that you can get anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And Chad's coaching really aligned me in real estate for the first time. And so I had to put a plan together. Now, my plan is different than anybody else's because I'm different. And that's one of the things that I want to say is you need to have a plan that works for you, that takes advantage of your strengths and your assets, and that you want to work and make sure that it is aligned with who you are as a person. For me at the time, 3 years ago in 2019, I could go to court every day. And I did that. And I do know that you need to spend about 3 or 4 hours a day lead generating to generate leads in real estate. I know that no matter what you do, whether you door knock or cold call or network or buy the leads, you need to spend about 3 hours or 4 hours a day generating leads in order to create enough appointments, to create enough contracts to make a living in real estate. And so I started going to court every day, and I got there before 8 at 7:45. I have a cup of coffee and I hang out and watch the court. And I would network with people. And my goal was to get 1.5 people a day where I had a name, address, phone number, and email and connected with them. And I did that. And when COVID started, I had built a business where I had a huge pipeline of business. And I'd seen more court confirmation sales than anybody in Los Angeles County. Now, LA is the largest probate court in the country. All our 90% of our probates, or 99% of our probates, are in one court building, which is unusual. And while court confirmation sales are rare, less than 10% of all sales, less than 10% of a large number is still a good enough number. So we have 50 to 60 court confirmation sales a month in LA. It was enough for me to make a good living. And so I did that until COVID hit, and I built a great business. And then I had to start again because COVID changed all my lead generation. And so I moved my business to online. I host my own call, Probate Weekly. You guys are welcome to join. It's free. I do real estate investing Zoom because I work a lot with investors. And then I interview a lot of my vendors, attorneys. That's how I do my prospecting, is I interview people. I put on my social media channels. And as a result, I've generated a fantastic business. Last year, I closed 42 sites. Between real estate commissions, about $380,000 gross. And then there's additional business I earned through my company. And then there's the flips I made money on. So my gross income last year was over $500,000. And I don't work that much. I work 40 hours a week. I work a solid 40 hours a week. When I work, I work. When I don't work, I don't. But I only work 7 days a week. I can. I'm religious. I generally don't work after 5 o'clock. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a cold. So I do work significantly, but I'm not like when I was 21 years old, not working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And not only am I building a business, but I'm building wealth. I have a team beneath me, about 33 people today that generates revenue for me. I have residual income coming from a couple different sources. And I'm building business that comes to me where I get people who call me to talk to me about referrals, whether it be attorneys or petitioners or investors. So that's what I've done. And it's all because of the attitude and focus and the mindset that Chad laid out in the Probate Mastery course. I'm retaking it again. I've taken it live a couple times. I'm taking it now on demand, or retaking it, I should say, because we need to hear these things over and over again. Our nature is to be more self-centered, and the challenge is to be focused on the prospect or the customer. So that's who I am. And I come on this call. Quite honestly, I check in on it. I like to be part of the group. I do watch on demand every week and a couple other items. And Chad asked me to host it because I guess he wasn't going to be here this weekend. So I said, yeah, I think it's something I do and do well. But I want you to think of me as a colleague doing sales, as well as a real estate investor doing sales, not as a coach, not as a company. So that's my story. So real quick, before I get started, I have a couple questions already. Just put in the chat box, what state are you in? If you'd be so kind, what state are you in? So an idea of how many are California or how many are other states. I'm in California. My team, I have an agent in Florida, one in Georgia. Love Florida. Okay, so we have, let's see real quick, just to give you guys some feedback. We have, Utah, California, Texas, Colorado, looks like FL, Florida, New Jersey, Michigan, Arizona, Texas. Florida. Okay, so spread around quite a bit. Okay, great. And then also licensed in Ohio, but currently no in Alabama. Okay, well, that's an interesting combination. And then also realtor or investor. You should be both. So you can be both, I guess. Realtor or investor. Both. Investor. Both realtor. Okay. And I would say if you're a realtor, you should be both. I don't think you should look at your probate listings as take advantage of vulnerable people. I don't, as an investor, buy those same properties, but I do come across investments as a realtor. Okay, so pretty good mix. Okay, great. So now I know who I'm talking to, and let me go ahead and start with a couple of questions at the top. You can raise your hand or put in the chat box. The first question regarding property in Florida, person died with a will. I'll just tell you from the very beginning, the number one misconception is that the will avoids probate. I'll just say that it's just a common phrase. Wills don't avoid probate. Wills are probated to effectuate the will. Wills are put in effect in probate court. Lawyer for the PR says the property must be listed for sale. However, when they would like to buy out the other heirs, lawyer says no. Well, so Thurman has an interesting question that comes up. I'll make it a little broader rather than just this question, Thurman, where the attorneys disagreeing with the heirs. And I would say that in general, one of the pluses and minuses of working with attorneys is they tend to be very strong personalities. That's the good news is when they refer you, they're strong. The bad news is they can be hard to work with. You have to always treat them as though they're right. You have to always treat them as though they're right. So here's a case where the lawyer saying he wants to be listed. One heir would like to buy out the others, and the lawyer says no. Well, obviously, because he wants to buy them out, he wants to buy them out what? On the cheap. This is a new concept. And so what the lawyers say, we'll put in the market if you want to pay the fair market price, and we'll sell it to you at that price. So this is a classic challenge in probate. And then he says in Florida. Florida's a pretty active probate market. So Thurman, I would say that at the end of the day, I can always speak to the law in California that even if there's no court confirmation required for a probate, so there's two types of probates in California. There's full authority and limited authority. Full authority means basically the petitioner or the executive can sell the property for whatever they want, but unless somebody objects, until somebody objects. And court confirmation means it has to be approved by the court. But even under full authority, they file what's called a notice of proposed action. And anybody can object. And this is the missed piece of the puzzle. That if you have multiple heirs and one's going to sell to the other, even though it's not required maybe by law, the title company is going to require a notice of proposed action be filed in California. Thurman, I don't know Florida. I imagine it's the same. I think it is the same. And so what happens is that the heir will think, oh, I'll just buy it and everybody will agree to it. But if the other heir objects, now you need court confirmation. So I think at the end of the day, the attorney's probably right. You're going to have to list the property and more importantly, probably have to pay fair market value for the property. And what I see happen, again, as a practitioner, anybody besides me see this where it looks like the listing agent is trying to hide the property. Limited pictures, limited story, limited numbers are limited description, right? It's almost like they don't want me to see the property. So those are the opportunities, I think, as an investor to step in. Sometimes you're buying the property unseen, but that's kind of part of the probate world. Okay, next question, I think, was Stephen about direct mail phone calls, also the mindset, and a little of my story. Stephen, you want to unmute yourself? You want to talk about?
Yeah, I don't want to take up too much time. I know I did the post yesterday to kind of save it for other people. So I stumbled across probate just because there's a lot of estate sales in my town. I fell into a couple of senior deals by accident when they moved into assisted living. So I ended up getting the SRES and really started doing that about 3 months ago. I've already gotten 2 listings and I do the mobile home thing because I tell you, I started in 2020 as a real estate agent and I've quickly figured out some stuff and I could probably talk forever about it. But this is an area, just the senior citizen market that's totally not serviced out here. I have no competition and I'm in the greater Salt Lake City area. But my question, just because I've been going through the course, and of course there's letters that Chad talks about. I have had a very negative experience with direct mail. I'm good on the phone. And of course, text, email, all that. And even at the door, I'm fine. But I have spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on mail pieces in the past and not gotten one call. I wouldn't say it helped me to build rapport. I wouldn't say it helped me stay top of mind. And I think part of that's because of my area, but I don't know. I'm a little concerned about that with, say, this lead source.
Right. So what I would say is that in my experience, you're not going to get results on mailing unless you're phone calling also in competitive markets. When I hear people who do well with mailing, just my experience in listening in on these calls, if you're in a more less competitive real estate market, rural, semi-rural, you're the only realtor in town talking about probate, then maybe those mailers work. But in Los Angeles, they're getting 20 to 30 letters. So I don't know about Utah, but I imagine it's a competitive market. So I would say that if you're going to mail, you better be prepared to call. And I would only mail to where I'm ready to call, and I would only call where I'm sitting.
I do so much better with meeting in person and calls
Of
anyway.
course.
That's how I did it with the mobile homes. But there was no competition with the mobile homes. I think it's the same here. But it's funny you mentioned realtor. It gets mixed in with all the other realtor stuff for Vismos, expired. And I'll tell you the really big thing out here, it is a problem, is the whole circle prospecting thing. Man, don't even get me started on circle prospect. But yeah, okay. I'm glad to hear that because I don't want to just make excuses.
Right.
But it's just really, that's been the experience I've had.
I just don't think it's going to be effective. I think you've got to call them as well. I think everybody, I'm not selling the marketing, so I can be honest about it, but you've got to make the phone calls behind the mailer. The mailer will make it more effective. It'll make it easier for you to make the phone call, but I don't believe mailing alone is going to generate inbound. It might in smaller rural areas, but I don't think in our area at all. Okay. Okay. A Brokers Guild user, I think that's Pete. Pete, what's going on, man?
How you doing, Bill? Hey, just had a question regarding when Chad talks about partnering with the attorneys and co-marketing, co-branding the documents as far as on the same page, like the list of what's responsible. How do you go about that when you're partnering with more than one attorney?
Well, I don't do it, so I can't speak from a personal experience, right? I've given them my flyers to hand out. I've never co-marketed material with them, so I don't really have any particular insight. You can print multiple copies of the flyer, one for one attorney, one for another attorney.
Right. Well, the reason I'm asking is like when I go this morning, I met with an assisted living facility administrator, and in the packet I gave them had several documents, and I don't want to put just one attorney in there because I don't want to favor anybody. So I was wondering, that's why I was asking the question.
Why don't you want to favor anybody?
So in Colorado, when we make referrals to our clients, we're required to give at least three attorneys, 3 plumbers, 3 painters, whatever.
Are you really required to do that? Are you sure? I've heard people say in California. It's not true in California.
Colorado Board of Realtors. Yeah.
Wow.
They're supposed to. I don't know if everybody does it. I try to follow the rules.
Well, when you say supposed, again, I would check the rule and see if that's clearly the law versus common practice. I know brokers often say that, and I think that brokers are more focused on not getting sued than I've heard this in California from every broker I ever worked for. You should provide 3 lenders, 3 escrows, 3 tunnels. Well, the problem is I could barely find one good one. So I'm going to give them the best one I know, one that's average, and one below average. Well, why would I refer my client a below average lender? It doesn't make any sense at all.
No, I understand that.
So to answer your question, I don't know how to, I don't have that particular restriction, so I don't know how to answer that. No. My goal here today is to be practical to what I really do. I think that you can certainly, you can vary it. I guess if you had 3 or 4 different flyers, you could tell them you mix it up and do, one packet has one attorney, the next packet has the next one, the next one has the next one, I guess. And the other option is you can have them call you with the attorney's information rather than co-market. But I don't know that I've not co-branded my market material. I've promoted by interviewing attorneys on my YouTube channel. And then I've friended them and I tagged them on it, and that's been real effective. But I don't know that I would print up flyers with their information on it.
Okay.
So I can't be more specific. Okay, Connie asked a question. A long time ago, you went to Pasadena courthouse to get probate files for the clerk. So I will say, Connie, that in LA County, okay, got that. So Connie says you went to Pasadena court. So in LA County, all the probate court now is in Los Angeles County at Mosque Courthouse. And she said, I'm in Orange County and I'm also near Long Beach. So you can go to Orange County Courthouse, which is Santa Ana, if you went in person, but you can also buy the data online. There's a number of providers. All the leads, I would say, is the highest quality, but more expensive. There's Probates Daily. There's probate data. I have a website. On my website, I'll put the link in the chat box. But on my website, I have a page with all the data sources that I found and some comments on some of them. And in some cases, I actually did a small video on them because I've had attorneys come look for that data. So I'll put in the chat box right here the link to my website page, and I have in there a page that has probate data sources. So you can get from anybody. And they're all a little different. They all have the pluses and minuses. That's just the data, the actual filings.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
Good. Who's this?
This is Chip.
The Chipster.
Hey, I just want to interject about the last fella who was talking about co-branding. I think might have been referring to, as Chad had talked about, where you could do a timeline PDF file, and you can use that as a marketing tool with co-branding with the attorneys. It's not like you send out stuff. It's just like a PDF that when people go to your website or your YouTube channel, they sign up and you send them the copy of the PDF. And at the bottom of the timeline, and it has that contact. And so that's the one suggestion I remember that Chad has mentioned a couple of times.
So I have people all the time asking for referrals for attorneys. And because I've talked to so many now, I would say that it's kind of like asking somebody, what's a great restaurant to go to? Well, depends. What kind of food do you like? You like Chinese? You like barbecue? You like hamburgers? Fast food? You like more bougie, high-end grill? Okay, meat, dairy, what get more specific. And so I think the attorneys are the same thing. Is it a basic case? You just need filing? That's one answer. Do you need somebody who's a hand holder? Is it litigation? Then you need a real tiger. So I rather the customer call me than just generically send them to the attorney. I think what people was talking about is if you agree with an attorney to do some co-marketing, how do you manage that? And again, that depends on your agreement with them. But I would be hesitant to refer somebody. I want my material to circle back to me. I think the goal of marketing is all messages should come back to me, and then I can send out the referrals where I want them to go. I wouldn't want them to go directly to a attorney. Thanks, Chip. Renee, familiar face. What's going on?
Hey there. So I've always admired and I really like your approach to interviewing people. And I know we are specifically talking about probate here, but just for me, kind of interviewing lots of different vendors is going to be really fun. It's just fun. It's like, it's a way for me to engage that I really like. So you said you have interviewed a lot of different attorneys, obviously with the probably underlying hope of getting some business from them, right? But when you were approaching them, you probably can't do business with everybody, right? Or expect business from them, but they're attorneys. So they're like, we get paid by the hour, we this, we that. How were you able to, or what is your approach to basically taking an hour of their time? Or did you ever pay for that?
No.
For marketing. Okay.
So one of the principles of business is you want to work with people who are swimming towards you. You think of yourself as being, imagine you were in the Coast Guard where the Titanic sunk and your job is to save as many lives as you can. You can't swim after somebody. You've got to be at the boat and pulling up the people who are swimming towards you. I think business is the same. You want to get people moving towards you to be able to help them. So with some attorneys I've approached and they just blew me off. They're a loss. Truly they're a loss. I'm a much better agent than their agent. I can be a real asset to their legal business. I can help promote them, but whatever. Now do sleep over it. I will take exception to what you did say. I think the key is not to come from burning. If I'm not good, they're going to refer me. If I'm not that good, they won't. But I literally come from a point of view. I like to expose you to my network of people. who are looking for attorneys from time to time for probate, and realtors and investors who need to refer to somebody. And I believe it's genuine. It's a challenge to keep your heart pure and your mind clean, but I work at it. I believe I'm being genuine when I say that. And look, a lot of them not giving me any business at all. That's okay. The time's worth it. I'd say that most of the attorneys I've interviewed, that I've asked for, have agreed to an interview. They see it as business development, particularly at the time of COVID, where they used to go either out to lunch with people or they would go speak at events. Particularly Los Angeles, the number one probate attorney by volume has been Paul Horn, and he built his business by speaking at realtor events, and all the probate attorneys know that, and they would like to get that business. So when I call them and say, "Hey, I have a call I do Probate Weekly. I'd like to interview you and expose you to my channel," most people are interested and say yes. Now I'll say I'm opportunistic. I try to pick an attorney that I have some business with. Maybe I closed a deal and they were the attorney, or maybe I see it on YouTube. I see that they're doing marketing, right? So what's funny is, we're realtors. I see attorneys who have very fancy YouTube channels. They have like 5 videos. They have a total of 30 views. They're all professionally done with great intros and thumbnails. It all looks perfect, but they probably spent $10,000, paid some consultant, and that's what they got. And I say, I think I get you more views on my interview in half an hour than you did for all that. So when you think of it that way, what I'm offering them is worth more than $10,000 for a 30-minute video.
And
So that's how I believe it. If they don't believe it, that's fine. They don't have.
okay, perfect. And then just for myself and the rest of the group, because there's this notion that the attorney themselves are most likely not going to pick up the phone unless maybe they're like one-off attorneys. Just walk us through, like in the very beginning, like, did you cold call the attorney and say, "This is who I am"? And did you speak directly to them, or was there a lot of velvet ropes and assistance to get through?
Well, I never really made a point of cold calling attorneys. I'm looking for one guest a week, and
Okay.
not all are attorneys. So out of 52 weeks, I need about 40 a year. So it's not even one a week. Some I met through various. I was on YouTube and I was on a Zoom call and I met them that way, and I called them back. The ones I saw, there's one in particular I thought, oh, she's perfect. I saw another realtor doing YouTube, and she was in Orange County, and I said, oh, she's perfect. I want to get her my. So I called her and I emailed. I think with attorneys in general, the way they communicate, again, you always want to speak your prospect's language. I call it the message, and then I send an email that describes exactly what the phone call is about. So when they get my email, and I don't know about you, but I get these idiotic messages from realtors every day. "Hi, can you call me back about your listing?" Well, why? What's it listed for? Why? Yeah, if your email says what's it listed for, I can answer that. But to call you back and get you on the phone to tell you the price is kind of stupid. So attorneys, I want to speak their language, and I want to show them I know their language from the communication. So I'll call them, I'll leave a message. "Hey, Renee Bill Gross. I'm a real estate broker specializing in probate. I have a probate focused channel. I'd love to expose you to my population of investors and wholesalers and realtors that work with probate attorneys like you. And I was wondering if you might be open to doing a short interview, and I'll send you an email with the details." And I send an email that describes it all down. I said, either give me a call, we can talk about it, or just book yourself right here. And I have a calendar link, and some book themselves and some want to call me back and talk about it.
That's perfect. That answers my question. Beautiful. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you. Always. Likewise.
Lynette, what's up, Lynette? How can I help you?
Hi. So thanks for doing this. So I
Look
have,
over your left shoulder. What are those sculptures of?
I don't know, some yard art.
Okay.
It's something you like, and it kind of builds up.
Okay.
Kind of crazy. No cats. Okay. So I have 3 things specifically going on, and I think I have some practical semantics that I could use some guidance on if it's available. And then it's really like a mindset smackdown at the end. So when I get there, I have a probate lead, and it's very warm. I had shared briefly on our last call that we have a 35-year-old male that's deceased, and there was speculation that there was foul play. And now the most recent ex-girlfriend has been charged with murder, and she didn't do it very well either. Like she left the needles, and it's like insane. It's not funny, but good at that kind of thing. But I would have done better. I don't know. So that said, here's what's going on. The sole heir, and they did find a will. We didn't know that last week. They found a will. The sole heir to his estate is his minor child who's 11 years old. So that's number one. Number two is the child's mother. It is a former girlfriend from the child's 11. So from a while back. So, and the deceased mom is occupying the home because it needed to be secured. And the police had to do that. And so did all the attorneys to just kind of keep watch because the home and the personal assets were at risk. And it was like weird, funky stuff, not just the big stuff. That said, here's what's going on. Grandma, the son is deceased.
The 11-year-old son here lives with the mom, with the
Yes.
girlfriend. Okay.
Well, they had 50-50, but the 11-year-old, it happened, the 11-year-old daughter is staying with mama. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So grandma has an attorney. The child's mother has an attorney, and they're all operating very cooperatively, but they were immediately underinformed, but now they're getting better and better information. The last I heard is, and I need to give grandma a call. She does not know me. I know the child's mom and mom from mom's side, but Cheryl is grandma, shared that the state is going to file probate on the child's behalf. I know this is incorrect, just to help, as an orphan. And I don't know what that means or what it means in terms of engagement and how the PRs are going.
I understand that the child, the minor, his mother's living. He's living with his mother
That is correct. So
on the basis that he is an orphan. That doesn't sound right.
well, and I made a bunch of shit up about that. So here's what I said. It occurs to me like the state's filing because there's a $2 million life insurance policy with the arrested individual and the child. So I think there's probably a financial fiduciary component that needs a third party involved.
Got it.
And it may be a different legal definition of orphan, because I immediately went, both are deceased, and they are not. So that may be incorrect information, or there's something going on in the background that
Well, also on a life insurance policy, I don't think you can collect if you murder the person, beneficiary. There's probably exclusions, I would think, for that. So, or else my wife would buy a policy on me and kill me, I think, some days.
there's a slayer clause.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if if you're a beneficiary that murders the person who took out the thing,
Right.
then it goes to the rest of the beneficiaries or the estate.
Right.
So I did figure that out, assuming that's the way that particular policy was underwritten and written. So,
Right. So there's probably a conflict of interest.
and it's not even probated. So that's not even probated. And the state's going to file on behalf of the minor child. And I don't,
Well, the state might be filing just in general to look up, when you say filing, I don't know about Colorado, and Chip asked a question in Florida. California, you have to establish a guardianship. So it might be that the state's filing a guardianship to control the son's financial matters and financial interests on the basis the mother's not capable of doing it.
Denver, can I jump in here?
Sure.
Lynette, you're in Denver, right? So I have an attorney on my referral list over in Englewood who specializes in stuff like this. So after the call, if you want to give me a call, I will hook you up with him, and you can give him a call. I'm sure he'd be happy to speak with you.
that would be great. I have editorial about the referral and anyway, so that's great.
I'll private message you my contact info.
Okay. Sounds great.
Thanks, Pete.
Okay. So aside from that, I'm going to give grandma a call because she's in the house, and just as a reach out and just make myself available. And this is close enough to family to me that I'm happy to support and serve without monetizing this one, and it's just horrid. So that's number one. Number two is
Wow. That's number one. Okay. Number two.
Number
Yes.
two is I've made a few calls trying to find the right attorney for the mom, because everything she was at risk for a while, and she she had a restraining order against the other girlfriend, blah, 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 blah. My experience of talking to attorneys, and I want you guys to tell me this is incorrect. I was treated like on
Yeah.
the verge of
Yeah.
as a parasite.
Yeah.
And
It is amazing how bad their business skills are. I don't
and
know.
not only did they do that, they gave bad advice, like able to practice law. It's not my first rodeo either. So it was on the real estate side. I'm like, if you're giving that kind of advice for a transaction and you're like, anyway, so my mindset is now like, why would I bother? And I'd like to cooperate and provide service, but I'm not interested in kowtowing or whatever that word is that
Right.
you do that. Right.
Well, look, a comment on attorneys. The attorneys have a common skill. I'm not sure how they pick it up in law school. Attorneys, almost to a person, sound like they know what they're talking about when they know nothing about what they're talking about. That's why it's a fact 99% of all politicians are attorneys. If you think about it, because politicians always talk about like they know what to talk about and they know nothing about what they're talking about. You have people.
That's why I thought my youngest son should go to law school, by the way, but keep going.
So on one hand, they're hard to work with. On the other hand, if you find a way to work with them effectively, that's where the opportunity is. So I try to not let it bother me. There are attorneys who, when Renee was asking me that, turn me down, don't want me to help them do business development. I don't take it personal. They want to work with them if you're a realtor. Okay, but I don't really care. I'm pretty busy, so I'd like more business. But I'm doing pretty good, so I'm not going to cry over it. But you're right. It's a challenge. Working with attorneys is a challenge effectively. It's a skill. It takes time. You have to build your Rolodex one at a time. I don't know. There's no other way to say it than that. From a mindset point of view, don't let it bother you.
Yeah, I just actually just saying it out loud kind of disappeared. It's really fascinating. I treat strangers better. I treat everyone better.
There's a good place to vent that, I think. Hopefully make it that way.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks. I keep coming back.
Keep y'all posted.
Thanks. Okay, Michael Salas. I think you're muted.
Okay, good.
There you go.
Hey, Bill, thank you for taking my question. First off, I want to say I've read your stuff over the years, and I think you do a great job participating in the groups and giving information. I'm down in Orange County, so, we're fairly close to one another, but I've never reached out, but I want to just tell you right up front that I think that the things that you've done and said have been helpful, and I appreciate. So my question is about ISAs. I remember a couple of years ago that Chad had a referral of a company. I think it was in Canada or something like that was working with people in our group or with him or someone that he had a deal arrangement with, and they were well versed in our field. And I wanted to see if you might know that or who I could call to find out the name of that company. Calling ISAs.
I think I would say this is an area that I'm a practitioner. I'm not a coach. Chad has a much broader reach in those areas. I've never successfully worked with an ISA company, so I wouldn't want to refer anybody. I know of companies and people listen to me all the time, but I've never worked with one successfully. So I would have to say, as far as the one that he recommended, if Kat's listening, or McKenna, if you can maybe put in the chat box that there's a particular company. Kat worked, I think, for that company. So maybe she'll put in the chat box that information, but I don't know. I've never worked with them. I really can tell you.
Well, I'm in a situation right now where I might have a bunch of people dumped on me, or not, and I thought, well, maybe to plow my way through that, I might hire a company for a couple of months to plow through those names and numbers. And I remember Chad talking about this, and he really liked this company. So I thought, well, maybe, and that was a couple of years ago, like I said. So I thought it would be nice to find out. So if I can't get a hold of somebody here on this call, should I call the office and ask for Kat or somebody there I should ask for?
No, go into the Probate Mastery, in the Facebook group, Probate Mastery, put in the chat, post this question there. If you don't get it by the time we're done with the call today.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I see McKenna's on the call, but McKenna, I don't know if you can reach out to Chad, if you get that information, either Chad or Kat, that'd be great. But yeah, if you don't get the answer by the end of the call, Michael, just go into the Probate Mastery Facebook group, post it there. I'm sure you get the answer.
Okay. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Sal, Sondigretti, what's up?
Hey, Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
My question is regarding building your team. I've been trying to explain to members of the team that sometimes they wouldn't get paid right after they finish whatever job it is that they required to get paid when probate cases close. They get paid by the estate, that there would be some type of mechanics thing, most likely. But a question was asked to me, what happens if there isn't enough money to pay it's credit. Excuse me, it's credit.
Yeah, that's a risk, right? And number one, what if, so I think there's two ways you can do it. I often advance money myself. I use just for advancing probate money. And I send invoices to this with attorney's approval, send them invoices. And so far I collected every time I've done it, but I also know the transaction. I know the equity in the house. I know the motivation. And I would only do it for a house that's going to be sold for sure. Me, is vacant. Sometimes it takes longer than expect. I think the other side is what you refer to as asking the vendor to get paid at the close of escrow. Now they're going to get paid. You get paid at close of escrow, not the close of the probate. So if there's money at the end of the escrow, they're going to get paid. But there might be more creditors in line, but you can get paid through escrow. You then step ahead of all the creditors. So I wouldn't wait till the probate closes. Sal, where are you located?
In Washington State.
Yeah, I don't know the law in Washington. California, as a realtor, I can advance expenses and get reimbursed at the close of escrow. So if we're selling a house and the proceeds are $400,000, and I advance $10,000 to get $390 proceeds, there might be $500,000 of creditors in line to get that money, but they're going to come after me because I got through the escrow.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, drive safely.
you.
Clara Monique, you're next. How can we help you?
Hello, everyone. I'm fairly new to the group. I got certified about 2 months ago, and I'm in Arizona. I understand that Chad has attorneys in Arizona that are part of this group. I was wondering if I could get connected with them.
What are you looking for from them?
Some probate attorneys.
You looking to refer them cases? You're looking for them?
Yeah, for them to refer me business.
I
And
think-
see, the thing is, I'm in Pinal County, and in this county, I cannot get from all the leads. I cannot get probate information from all the leads.
Okay. So you might try different vendors. I put it in the chat box earlier. I'll do it again. My webpage, I have a list of different vendors I've accumulated.
Okay.
And let me just put it out there. If you have a source I missed, please let me know and I add to my list. My goal is to have the comprehensive list in business. But there's one that I think is everywhere in the country is, what is that? One that you should look at, Successors Data.
Successors data.
Yeah, but you might try a couple, but I would definitely look at Successors Data. Some are only in certain states and certain areas. I think they're nationwide. But so there's that. And then I think that as far as getting business from attorneys, I think to get business from anybody, you have to start, or bringing them value, right? And I think that in any relationship, it's about being the right partner, not finding the right partner. So what are you doing to help them with their business? Are you helping them by bringing them other services? You're bringing them marketing, or you're bringing them, and what are you doing to help them with their business? And I think you have to focus on that. Once you do that, then they'll come around to you and offer you business.
I apologize. What was the question that you were talking about? Successors data?
She was looking for data in a less metro county in Arizona. I think it was Pinellas County.
Ah, okay. Okay. Yeah, I think Successors data is very good. And I think I'm drawing a blank on who they use. I think it's Core Logic, I think, or something like that. That's their data. Yeah, I think, they definitely have stuff in Florida all over.
Kim put you have not able to get Arizona leads as well. Kim, are you in talking about specifically with all the leads or just in general with the other providers? Road to track. Okay. You might try different vendors. I think that some vendors have spots they don't cover. And so you only have to find the one that works in your area. And by the way, Kim, if you're the only one that knows vendor in your area, good for you, right? Cool. Okay. Hey, we're at the top of the hour. I guess we got a little late start. I'm not sure. I was here on time. I'm not sure what happened there. I'm sorry for the delay in the start of it, but I had a lot of fun. My name is Bill Gross. You can see me on YouTube at Bill Gross EXP, or you can go to I have a probate call I do every week on Thursdays, probateweekly.com. I do Thursdays at 4:00 p.m. Pacific time every week. Love to have you join there for free. But this is Chad's Probate Mastery Call. We do it every Tuesday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern time. And I believe it's recorded and put on social media and YouTube and Facebook and all those good places. So you find that as well. So thanks to all those who brought great questions today. I really appreciate working with you as a colleague in this group. I'm really honored to have the chance to do that today. Thank you so much, everybody.